Have you ever felt that feeling that something mundane is about to turn into something unexpected, maybe even dangerous? I tried it that Saturday morning for a simple boat trip. I had no idea what would happen. I had never loved the sea. The idea of being cradled by the waves for hours had always given me a sense of uneasiness. But that morning something was different. I wore a light floral dress, and looking in the mirror, I felt a strange energy, as if something was about to happen. My husband Alexander, he was over the moon. He had been talking about this release for weeks. His father would also be with us, Victor, who recently moved to the city after losing his wife. Vittorio was a charismatic man, with an intense gaze and an engaging laugh. He had always been a loving father, but lately I had started to sense something different about him, something I couldn't ignore. When we arrived at the dock, the sun was already warming the air. Alessandro jumped onto the boat with the enthusiasm of a child, starting to prepare everything with meticulous precision. I remained behind, looking for Vittorio. I saw him arrive with a sure step, wearing a white shirt and shorts. When he met my gaze, he gave me a smile that made me blush. "Hi, Elena. You look lovely today," he said, in a warm and sincere voice. "Grazie, Vittorio. You look good too." "For a man of a certain age," I replied jokingly, trying to mask the nervousness growing inside me. We climbed aboard and began sailing along the coast. Alessandro was at the helm, full of enthusiasm, while I lay down on a lounger sunbathing. Vittorio sat not far away, with a relaxed expression but a look that I couldn't ignore. After about an hour of sailing, Alessandro decided to stop the boat in a secluded bay for a dip. He immediately jumped into the water, leaving me alone with his father. Vittorio approached slowly, with a bottle of wine in his hand. "Would you like a toast?" he asked with an enigmatic smile. I accepted, trying to hide the tremor I felt. His fingers brushed mine as he handed me a glass, and a shiver ran through me. "What are we toasting to?" I asked in a faint voice. "To the beauty of unexpected things," he replied, fixing me with a penetrating gaze that seemed to delve into me. We raised our glasses and drank, but I couldn't take my eyes off his. There was something about that man that attracted me, a magnetic tension that left me breathless. I tried to break the silence. "Alessandro seems really happy today," I said, but my voice betrayed agitation. "Yes, it is," Vittorio replied without stopping looking at me. "But I'm also happy to be here. Happy to be here with you, Elena." Those words hit me like lightning. I felt my face heat up and looked away, but he came even closer. I could feel the warmth of his breath on my skin. "Vittorio," I murmured, not knowing what to say. Before I could say anything else, he gently touched my arm. The contact was electrifying. "Don't say anything," he whispered. "Let that be our secret, at least for today." His words were an irresistible invitation. I moved closer to him, feeling the heat of his body against mine. Our lips touched, and in a moment of madness, I kissed him. The kiss was intense, overwhelming, and I felt a storm of emotions wash over me. When we pulled away, I looked out to sea. Alessandro was still immersed in the water, unaware of everything. I turned to Vittorio, but he silenced me with a finger on his lips. "Not now, Elena. We have all the time in the world," he said, with a smile that made me tremble. "In your opinion, will Elena be able to keep this secret, or will the weight of guilt lead her to confess everything? Write it in the comments." I felt overwhelmed by a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Guilt burned inside me, mixing with a strange, heady feeling of excitement. I didn't know how it happened or what lay ahead, but one thing was certain. That boat trip changed everything. The rest of the day passed in a blur. After that kiss, Vittorio and I avoided each other with an almost maniacal care, as if we both feared that Alessandro might sense something. I sat back on the lounger, staring at the sea in an attempt to calm my crazy heart, while Vittorio, motionless at the stern, scanned the horizon with an expression I couldn't decipher. Alessandro, unaware of everything, was having fun in the water with the carefreeness of a child, diving in and re-emerging with a contagious smile that I had always envied. Every now and then he waved to me, and I responded with a forced smile, while the weight of the newborn secret grew inside me like a cold stone in my stomach. "Don't tell him anything, Elena," Vittorio had whispered to me shortly before. Those words continued to echo in my mind. They were advice, but also a subtle threat. Whatever happened between us would remain a secret, a betrayal that would change my life forever. When Alessandro finally came back on board, soaked and beaming, he gave me a kiss on the cheek. That innocent gesture triggered a shock of guilt in me so strong that I almost couldn't breathe. I looked at Vittorio, who gave me a calm, almost amused look, as if he were the only one who knew the rules of a perverse game into which I had been dragged against my will. "Did you have fun while I was in the water?" Alessandro asked with a genuine smile. "Yes, everything is fine," I replied too quickly, trying to sound natural, but even I felt the emptiness of my words. Vittorio, however, replied with disarming simplicity, "We just chatted and drank some wine, nothing special." That tranquility hit me like a punch in the stomach. Her ability to hide what had happened made me feel small, an inexperienced child in a game too big for her. The wind changed, and the sea became rougher. A light mist began to envelop the coast, and a thrill of fear ran through me. It was as if even the sea felt the weight of our secret. "We should go back," I suggested, trying to keep my voice steady. "But no, Elena, don't worry," Alessandro replied with his usual optimism. "It's just a passing cloud." My gaze met Vittorio's, and in his eyes I read a concern that Alessandro seemed to ignore. The wind increased in intensity, and the boat began to rock. I held on to the railing, but my heart was beating for reasons beyond fear. Vittorio's closeness, his gaze fixed on me, made me vulnerable in a way I couldn't explain. "Alessandro, maybe we really should go back," Vittorio said with a more serious tone. Alessandro looked at us both and finally nodded. "Okay, let's go back to the coast. I don't want Elena to worry." I felt a sigh of relief, but it didn't last long. A sudden gust hit the mainsail, and the boat listed sharply. I lost my balance and slipped, hitting my side on the railing. Vittorio rushed towards me, grabbing my arm and pulling me up with surprising strength. "Are you okay?" he asked, his eyes full of concern. "Yes, just a little shaken," I replied, but my voice betrayed the emotion of the moment. His arm remained around my waist for a moment that seemed endless. The warmth of his body against mine gave me a security that I didn't want to admit even to myself. Then, suddenly, he let go, remembering where he was and who he was with. I felt myself wavering, both physically and emotionally. Finally, the port appeared on the horizon, and the wind died down. Alessandro turned towards us with his usual optimistic smile. "You see? Nothing to worry about, Elena. We're almost home." I forced a smile, but the lump in my throat wouldn't ease. Vittorio looked at me once again, with that penetrating look that seemed to want to tell me something, but he didn't dare do it with Alessandro there. We disembarked in silence. Alessandro hurried to fix the boat, while Vittorio followed me at a distance. The weight of our secret continued to weigh on me, and I understood that that day marked the beginning of an inevitable change in my life. Once on land, Alessandro proposed having lunch in a nearby restaurant, determined to extend what, despite everything, he still considered a beautiful day. Vittorio and I exchanged a look. I saw a determination in his eyes that I had never seen before. "Elena, I need to talk to you," she whispered, moving closer. Those words made me tremble, but I nodded. "Okay, I'll find a way." When Alessandro walked away to answer a phone call, I took advantage of the moment. "I have to go to the bathroom," I said, trying to sound natural, even though my smile was nervous. Vittorio followed me discreetly, heading towards a small terrace overlooking the sea, away from prying eyes. As soon as we were alone, he took my arm. This time there was no hesitation. "Elena, I can't ignore what happened on the boat. I don't want to ignore it," he said, his voice low and intense. "Vittorio, it was a mistake, a huge mistake," I murmured. But even as I spoke, I could hear my voice cracking, as if I didn't really believe it either. "Was it really a mistake? Or are you just saying that because you're afraid of what it means?" he asked me. This time his tone was softer, almost reassuring. I remained silent, unable to respond. The truth was, I wasn't afraid of what had happened, but of how deeply I wanted it to happen again. Vittorio seemed to read my thoughts. "I don't know what's going on between us, but I can't stop thinking about you," he confessed. "I know it's wrong, that I'm putting you in an impossible position, but I can't pretend like nothing happened. In your opinion, will Elena be able to resist, or will she end up throwing herself even deeper into this forbidden relationship? Leave your opinion in the comments." His words hit me like a punch. I liked Vittorio. Perhaps I had always liked him, but I had never had the courage to admit it even to myself. Now everything was out of control. "We can't, Vittorio. We can't do this to Alessandro," I whispered, trying to fight the whirlwind of emotions that overwhelmed me. "Yes, we can," he replied calmly. "We can, if we really want to." I approached him without knowing what I was doing, as if I were on the edge of a precipice, ready to jump into the void. And just as I was about to speak, a familiar voice interrupted us. "Elena, Vittorio, what's happening here?" It was Alexander. He was there, in front of us, with an expression I had never seen. Confusion and pain mixed together. My heart stopped. The secret was no longer a secret. Alessandro stared at us. His gaze crossed all our barriers, capturing every fragment of tension and embarrassment. His voice was calm, but the pain was evident. "What's going on here?" he repeated. I tried to speak. "Alessandro, But the words got stuck in his throat. Vittorio stepped forward, trying to intervene. "Alessandro, it's not what it seems," he said, his voice strained. "We didn't want this to happen. It was a mistake, a situation that got out of hand." Alexander remained silent, his face impassive. His gaze wavered between the two of us. The weight of guilt crushed me. "A mistake," Alessandro repeated, his voice trembling. "You were with me the whole time and acted as if nothing had happened." "No, Alessandro, listen." I tried to get closer to him. "It wasn't wanted. It was a confusing moment." "A moment of confusion," Alessandro replied, pain and anger mixed in his voice. "Are you telling me that everything we built meant nothing?" Vittorio tried to answer, but Alessandro raised a hand to stop him. "No, Vittorio," he said firmly. "I need time. I don't want to talk to you right now." Alessandro turned and headed towards the exit of the restaurant. I followed him with my eyes, my heart heavy. Vittorio remained next to me, silent, his gaze full of resignation. "You should talk to him," he told me. "Only he can decide what to do." I joined Alessandro at the car. He was sitting at the wheel, staring into space. I knocked on the window and he looked up. There was pain and disappointment in his eyes. "Alessandro, I can explain to you. Please give me a chance." Alessandro got out of the car. "Elena, I just want to know one thing," he said, his voice cracking. "Why did this happen?" I stopped, trying to find the right words. "I don't know," I finally replied. "I have no excuses, but I am deeply sorry. I hurt you and there's nothing I can do to change what happened, but I want to try to repair the damage." Alessandro looked at me for a long time, then nodded slowly. "Maybe we can face this truth together," he said finally. "But it will take time." We got into the car in silence, aware that the road to forgiveness would be long and painful. But at least now we had decided to face it together. If you want to receive new videos of the series, write "I want the sequel" in the comments. If you like the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel to receive a preview of future publications. Thank you.